Okay.
Okay. All right. So officially, I'm Megan Kottman.
I'm Jillian Adler.
Together, we are Kottman Adler. We run a 5-agent team in the city of Boston. This September will be our 7th anniversary at Compass in Boston. So we joined shortly after this market was formed in Boston. Today, what we'd like to walk you guys through, and our goal is to show you how we synthesize information into manageable data points to clearly convey appropriate pricing recommendations to our sellers, and ultimately to manage unrealistic seller expectations. What we learned a long time ago was when we would go in for listing calls, the first thing that a seller would want to know was, what's your number? So we would sit down and we would tell them what our number was, and then they wouldn't pay attention to us the rest of the listing presentation because there was typically a level of disappointment with what our listing number is. I find that 80% of sellers don't love the number you give them. Most sellers are going to value their house more than anyone else does, which makes perfect sense. So we decided to flip that, and we restructured the way that we talk to sellers. Most of our clients are finance and private equity people, so we started approaching it from a strict math scientific perspective.
And, so with all of this, interesting data that we have available to us between Compass and our individual MLSs and our experience in working with sellers, we have restructured. So what we want to go over with you today is how we work with a seller from start to finish. So the first thing we do, which I think is pretty interesting and unique, but it works, is we walk in and we tell the seller, we do not want to know what you think your house is worth. We are not interested in your bottom line or your price point. And there's a couple reasons for that. Number one is you may not hire us in our market and in what it feels like most people's markets right now. The micro markets in specific neighborhoods, the inventory is incredibly low. So one point is we may have the buyer for this if you choose not to work with us. So we don't need to know your bottom line or your price point. But most relevant is, what you believe your home is worth, and your rationale behind that may not make any sense with the numbers that we have. So we work through our pricing process with them. We truly believe that pricing is in fact a science. And we will walk you through how we go from a macro level to a market specific level to a comp level to arrive at our price point without taking into effect what the seller believes their house is worth. We'll also go over the agent's role in that process and what, we all do as listing brokers, and how if we do not meet those expectations, pricing isn't quite a factor.
We will also take data and look at how we distinguish ourselves from other agents in the market. Typically, we're going to be up against other listing agents, and as opposed to just saying, we do this better, we do that better, we use some data here as well, which we find is particularly helpful. We also find that other agents don't do that. Every once in a while, we get handed other agents' listing presentations, and this is not a place where you'll see other agents use data. And then the last point that we'll go through is once we've walked the sellers through this process, this very scientific, math-oriented process where we back them into the price of their house and give them the price at the end of the process, we typically find that it makes sense to the sellers. They understand how we got to the number that we got to. Whether they like it or not is a different story, but they understand it. That being said, we still have the sellers that look at us and say, I hear you. It makes sense. Your number, I get why you got there, but can we just try it at my price? So we're going to go through what you do with that seller who's heard you, understands it, but still just wants to try to sell their house at an unreasonable price.
So to start to walk you through the way we price a home, we start very, very high level, the macro market, which, sets the tone of the overall market today. Is that a buyer market? Is that a seller's market? And it's very interesting. We're finding a lot that our sellers are getting their information from specific news outlets. So last spring, for example, when we felt the market was turning, but the news said that, prices are excellent, the sellers weren't willing to hear that we needed a price drop, even though that's what we were seeing in the market. So we start at a very high macro level. From there, we'll get into the market specific, which is year over year appreciation. So if for this chart here, we go through 22 years in the entire city of Boston and what we saw for appreciation. So if a client of ours bought a home for $2 million in 2021 and they are interested in selling in 2023, we know that it's been a roughly 5% increase year over year for the last 20 years. That can be a little disappointing to people to say my home has only increased 10%. But people don't necessarily always take into account the blips that we had last year with the interest rate hikes. So it's important to show people these graphs, and we get even more specific. This is City of Boston. We'll break it down to the neighborhood. We'll break it down to the townhouses versus condos, and we'll go, price per square foot. So that way, when you have these numbers and data and graphs in front of people, it's a little hard for them to argue on pricing on the market specific level, which then will bring us into the micro level, which is our recent comps specific to each particular listing.
The thing that we hear most often from the sellers is, well, my neighbor just sold for this, and I think my house is better than my neighbor's. Everyone believes their house is better than their neighbor's. So in Boston, we have brick row houses. They're all very similar. They were built at the same time. It's just about what level of renovation that house has. So I recently had a case where I had a gorgeous single family, rough price point, $6 million. The house 4 houses down, renovated at almost the same time to almost exactly the same quality, super high quality, sold for $6.4 million. And my client said to me, we have virtually identical houses on fit and finish. Our houses were built at the exact same time. And the way we approach this is to say, you know what, you're right, you do. So let's take your house and your neighbor's house. They are virtually the same. And let's look at what things you might have that your neighbor might not have, that it allows us to adjust that price. This is what you do. We do it every day with our CMAs. And you look at your seller and you say, you know what, you're right. Your neighbor did sell for 6.4. The only thing we need to adjust for is they had an elevator and they had garage parking. You don't have an elevator and you have outdoor parking. So that's roughly a $500,000 adjustment. So you're correct. You take that 6.4 and we're at 5.9 once you do that. We actually want to price you a little closer to 6. So you take them down to the exact number. And, if you have the ability, which I happen to on this house, and say, we actually think we can do a little better than what that actual number is. It's the way that you take the seller's head out of anchoring themselves into their neighbor's pricing and anchoring them back into their own house. The other thing we do is we always set up a collection for our sellers. We will show this to them at the listing call, and then we will tell them they have access to this, and this is how they're going to watch their market. And in our market right now, all these yellow banners that say sold below asking, sold below asking, sold below asking are not necessarily what the seller anticipated we would show them. In our market in Boston, we're always inventory restricted. It may be different in your market. You may have to set up your collection differently, but the collection will always tell a story, just like all the sold data tells a story. Our story right now is our sellers go to work, they talk to their friends, and they're hearing that everyone's starting to get 2, 3, 4 offers on houses again. Now, 12 months ago, we were getting 8 and 9 offers on houses, and things were going $100,000, $200,000 over their asking price. So now the sellers are starting to hear this again. And in their head, when they're being told, oh, we had multiple offers on this, what they're hearing is this house went way over asking. The reality of what is happening there is what the story in the collection tells. It's actually these houses went, 2% under ask, 8% under ask, 5% under ask. But nobody has the data between under agreement and sold typically until a house actually sells. But what we're saying to them is, boots on the ground, we're in these bidding wars, and we won the last one at 50 under asking. So you may be hearing that you're multiple bids out in the market, but the reality of what is happening in the market is what you're seeing in this collection. It also allows you to highlight a lot of the Compass technology. So what I think we all forget sometimes is that we are up against other agents that don't have the type of technology that we do. I think we take it for granted a little bit, but we have the ability to make these beautiful presentations by using collections and other metrics. And this is a really good way to work it in. And as opposed to us saying, well, we guarantee you, listen to us, it's selling, everything's selling at 5% off. We don't have to. Again, we just show it to them. We're going to give them the data and tell them it's up to them as the seller to make a choice on where they want to list their house numbers wise and how they want to present that house. But we're going to give them the information that they need to make the correct decision at the end of the day.
So to recap there, it's, showing pricing, what we'll do with our pricing approach, the macro level, the market specific, and the comp, is to come to 3 different sets of numbers that are all roughly within the same playing field. So when we give them a range, we're giving them a range based on very, very specific data, from the macro to the specific to the comp. And what they'll see is you price this out 3 separate ways, and we're within a $25,000 to $50,000 range in price point. Which brings us to our role as the agent in the process. And I am sure I don't need to tell all of you how important it is to control every single variable. That is the preparation and staging, which I'm sure you do take very seriously. We do not list properties unless they are perfect. We declutter, we paint, we'll do new stone, a new backsplash. And with Compass Concierge, we really have that ability. And then we get into the media production and the photography and the marketing, which we have so many options for at Compass. But in our opinion, all of this needs to be done perfectly, because what happens is if we don't sell in the first 2 weeks, we need to be able to look at our seller and say, this is not a function of the way your house is presenting. This is not a function of we are not marketed appropriately in the right places. This means that it will all come down to the price once we have removed all of those other variables. So this is just another way to continue to take the emotion out of listing a home or pricing a home for the seller, because we are controlling every other variable in the situation. And this, I think, is really a helpful slide for a lot of people. We personally have this in our listing presentation. I think it's really important to know your numbers. So what we've done here is we have looked at the average days on market for our properties versus the entire city of Boston. So when we look at the properties we were on the listing side for, we actually have 55% fewer days on market than the average listing in this city. That is a really important and specific data point for sellers. Nobody wants to be on the market doing open houses every weekend, cleaning up, every other day for a showing. So to say that we can sell your home faster than most people based on our pricing analysis and our preparation gives the seller a lot of confidence when they select you to be their broker. The other piece of this is, and probably the most important, is we looked at what our ratio list price to sale price is versus the entire city of Boston. So in the last 2 years, our homes have sold at 98% of the average list price. And that's over all properties, where the average sale price for people in the city of Boston is 92%. So what this tells the seller, without us saying we're wonderful, we're smart, we're prepared, is, based on our numbers, we are going to sell your house pretty darn close to what we listed for, and we're going to do it in half the time of most other brokers. And if you are interested in how we got this information and how we set up this data, we are happy to share that with you all as well.
So once you've walked the sellers through all of this, you've backed them into where their price should be by showing them macro data, micro data, talking about their neighbor's house. distinguishing yourself and how you perform in relation to other agents in the market without specifically having to talk about other agents, which is not something that we ever do, but we do like to compare ourselves on statistics and numbers to the market as a whole. That's when we get to the end of our presentation and the seller looks at us and says, I get it. It makes sense to me. I understand how you got to your numbers, but can we just try it at my price? Can we just for a minute, just to see? And what we do with this particular objection is obviously it's their house. They get to price it. They get to decide, how we're going to go to market. So we have some workarounds for this. And we say to them, you know what, we don't advise it. But if that's where you are on this at the end of the day, let's do it in a smart way. Compass has this very cool tool called a private exclusive. You guys all know about it, but a lot of these sellers haven't heard about it. And none of the other agencies in our area have this. And we also find that in Boston, there are agents at Coldwell Banker and Sotheby's and what have you that are constantly searching the Compass site. We know this because we'll get pinged from an agent at Coldwell Banker that says, hey, what was this property? And a client of mine got this on your website, but I can't find it. Can you tell me a little bit about it? And it'll be a private exclusive. So what we say to the sellers is we can put your house on private exclusive. We can expose it to a very limited market of people. It will not be on MLS. We will not establish any price history whatsoever. We'll try your price. We'll get some people through your house. We'll do some marketing around it. We'll invite some agents in and we'll get some feedback on how your price is talking to the market and see, and then we'll adjust from there. Our other favorite thing to do, and this is something that we've started in the last year, is we'll do something called a pre-market broker pricing party. So we say to them, okay, you've gotten our opinion on price. Would you like to hear from the other 20 agents who sell primarily at this price point and in this neighborhood, other top producing agents? Because our market, I'm not sure if your markets are this way, there may be 800 agents in our market, but there's 20 to 50 of us that are really selling most of the real estate most of the time at various agencies, and we all are fairly cooperative. So we say, how about we get 20 to 30 agents through your house and we do a broker pricing party? And the way this works is we invite them in, we offer a gift card. Typically it's a $200 or $300, Visa gift card. We do a really nice lunch and we invite a specific subset of agents in. These are people that we work with all the time. I would say 30% of the people that come through are Compass agents, and Compass agents in Boston have started using this broker pricing party as well. Everybody writes down their name and the number for where the house should be listed. They drop it in a bucket on their way out. The closest to the hole gets the gift card. We find that people are not showing up for the gift card or the fancy lunch. Other brokers show up for two reasons. One, they want access to properties before they hit the market. There's nothing better than being a buyer's agent and calling your buyer and saying, hey, inventory is super tight. I just saw a great place. I'm going to get you in before it hits the open market. You're going to see it before everybody else. So you've just done those buyers agents a favor. They want to see the inventory before anybody else sees it. And they're doing you a favor. They're going to write down where that house should be priced. After the broker pricing party, we do a spreadsheet. We present it to the seller. You see it up on your screen. And we average everything out and we show them what agents priced them where. Most of the people in our market know who these agents are. And they say, oh, wait, Rob K priced it 15 grand below where you're going to price it. And, 30% of these people priced it 10 grand below where you want to price it. So it reorients them. It gives them this crowdsourced pricing, which usually takes care of the can we just try it at my price approach, because they see a mass of agents that they know picking a price that's almost dead on to where we were. If you still can't get them there with the pre-market broker pricing and 20 other opinions besides yourself, and they really just want to try it and they want to go live on MLS, we always suggest that you pre-negotiate a price drop. You got to say to your seller, you know what, if we aren't successful, we have to be prepared to adjust. One of the things we do as agents is we constantly and consistently stay on top of our listings. We certainly see other agents that don't, and things like collections help us. We adjust on a weekly basis. We have tools at Compass to tell us how to adjust, and we walk them through those tools, paid advertising, insights, and we say to them, okay, if we try it at your price, we're going to try it for X days, and we're going to show you what the web traffic is like, and we're going to give you the feedback from the showings, and then you're going to do it our way at the correct price, and you're going to see how that resonates. Because if we sit too long, your listing's going to become stale. 30 days in Boston is a stale listing. So we work very hard to get them to the right price. Even when they say to us, we know our price isn't right, but we want to try it anyway. So everything gets boiled down to numbers at the end of the day for us. We are happy to share any of this, all of this, how we create our spreadsheets. The numbers are going to be different in your various markets. One of our favorite things about being at Compass and being in Chirag Shah's coaching group, which we've been in maybe almost 2 years now, is the knowledge sharing. Other agents have shared so many things with us that have elevated our business. We are happy to share anything and everything, and even to sort of meet on the side individually if people think that would be beneficial.
We have come up with, when we first put together these data sets, dollar per square foot, average year over year for the last 20-year price points, it took us a long time to sort of figure out the metrics and the best way to show all of this data. And we are happy to sort of pass that along and have it be a little bit of plug and play for you, and also help in regards to finding the information about distinguishing yourself. I do think that is a huge part of any listing presentation. We always feel it's better to show, not tell. And I think that, would you agree, that's probably the whole point of this sort of getting your seller to the price point, is a show, not tell perspective. So you can show and you can distinguish yourself without saying I'm the best. And we can show and not tell based on all of the different metrics and data why your pricing is where it should be, and continue to set realistic expectations for your sellers for the future.
Yep, we found that the more transparent we can be with the sellers, the better off we are. We hear constant comments from sellers and other people in the market. Well, we never really know what brokers are doing because we're not there. We don't hear it. We're not privy to it. So the more transparent we can be with how we approach everything, what our numbers are, and what's going on during the process, the more we create trust with our sellers, which is really the business that we're in. It's about trust for us with our clients.
Yep. And if you are a newer broker, some of this can be really helpful if you are breaking into a new neighborhood, or you have your first or second listing in a neighborhood. This pricing party is a fantastic way to be able to get really good brokers who are well established at the neighborhood into your listing. They feel like you're doing them a really big favor. And it also makes it so they are willing to share information, because when we're talking about the off-market comps or the under agreement comps, it's likely that one of these brokers is going to have that information, and they may have the next listing for your buyers. So I think it's a helpful way to get into a neighborhood, give other brokers great information, and you get that great information in return.
It's all about having the information in real time, and a lot of times waiting for sold data, the information is stale. If you're listing a house during that gap period and sellers are seeing the multiple offer scenarios, you need to be able to tell them where those properties are trading. And by collaborating with other agents, even from other firms, but definitely with Compass agents, and talking and constantly sharing information, you're going to be a much better agent when you have that data for your sellers.
Yeah. I think that's about it for us. If anybody has any questions or here and show. We're getting tech support.
I've just opened the chat for any questions, so feel free to monitor that. And yeah, great presentation.
Thank you. Going to chat. Alex, can you open the chat? Okay. Okay. Oh, wait, go down. I think there was one about interested in how you pull data.
Yeah. Depending on what market you're in, we have a very good MLS. We do use Compass for data too,
Mhm.
because Compass captures the coming soons and the private exclusives that don't make it to MLS. But we typically rely on our MLS, and we have another good data source here. There are places where you can buy data. You can buy it from CoreLogic. New York, it's really difficult to pull data. We're
We
working with
tried.
yeah, we're working with a couple of our other people that are in Chirag's program to try to help them set up the data the same way. It's really hard for them. So in some markets, it's more difficult than others. In our market, it's not that difficult. And what we found is the sort of more condensed and more specific the data point is, the better. It's when you try to do too much that you lose people. So if you can get it down to one or two very specific conclusions for people, that tends to help. In terms of the programs we use to create our charts in,
Alex, come on over.
this is the brains behind the
She's the
operation.
Excel whiz. We have a lot of these formulas that Megan and I understand the information we're looking to get. Alex has the formulas in place. She has them hard coded. We're happy to share that as well. I saw something, somebody's question about how do we get brokers to participate? We call. I think the art of calling is lost on a lot of people.
Yeah.
We call brokers and say, hey, I see you've sold a lot in this neighborhood. We know them personally because we are show in our core markets. But if I was a newer broker and I was trying to get people to come, I would call the top 20 brokers and say, I have this great listing. I'd love for you to see it. I'd love your opinion on it. We are doing a lunch and a gift card. It would be great to have you come by, and it establishes that relationship, that sharing. And then you can get into, anything that they have under agreement that you're looking to get more information on.
So interesting question from Linda Balin. I hope I didn't say that wrong. Is the broker party allowed when you're a private exclusive and not supposed to speak to any other brokerages? In my past life, I was a lawyer. And this is a Compass thing, and a lot of people have asked about this lately. We will typically put it on coming soon, not consumer searchable, to be able to circulate it. But you're right, and we've run across this lately. So in terms of trying to advertise on social media, it's my understanding, and someone should correct me if I'm wrong, that you can't have something on private exclusive and be advertising it and releasing it on social media or to other brokerages. You've got to at least be on coming soon.
Yep.
So we are at least on coming soon, or we're not on at all.
Yep. Like a word of mouth sort of campaign, just, hey, come on over. I want your opinion on this. And you call 20 people, and when inventory is this tight, they're coming. They want to know. It's helpful for them.
They want to see it.
Is there anything else we were missing here?
Are you allowed to communicate off-market properties prior to MLS? Yes. So we can put coming soons on the Compass website and make them publicly searchable and not be on MLS. So you could be anyone in the world and you could be seeing that coming soon, as long as we made it publicly searchable. If it's not publicly searchable, it just populates to the buyers that other Compass agents have loaded in with that search criteria.
Okay. Somebody asked, do you add these slides to Compass CMA or do you use another system? We use the Compass listing presentation. We feel it's beautiful and our clients love it. We have done some personalization of that. So the slides with our fewer days on market and our list to sale price ratio, that actually just goes into our listing presentation.
We're happy to share the way we structure our custom listing presentation. We start with information about us, general Compass information, and then we boil it down and use our slides, and then we do the math portion on the actual listing.
So we're hearing a lot that
Oh.
you aren't able to show on coming soon. So our apologies for that. I
that's
think you
fine.
can probably do a slight, pending what your inventory is. I think you could do sort of the grassroots version of this and call a couple of different brokers who, you have good relationships with or who sell a lot in that area and get their opinion and pricing prior to posting on as a private exclusive or coming soon.
That's crazy.
That's awful. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
we coming soon is much more useful for us. I
Yeah.
think that's too bad. On the data presentation, we almost always do it in person unless
Yeah.
a seller requests Zoom for some reason. If they travel a lot, we like to get in front of them and be in their house and
Mhm.
meet them and walk them through it that way.
Yeah.
And typically we'll send a link of the presentation after if they want to revisit anything in our presentation.
I also think it's important to know we don't generally go into these blind. A lot of times we have sold it to them or we have seen the house before because our market is so small. But we will have at least an idea on the macro and the micro and the comps. And then if we walk in there and there's something crazy, and there always is, these houses were built in 1890 for the most part, we wheel a little bit, but it's based on the comps, but the macro and the micro are always set. So it's a great way to sort of start your listing presentation and make people feel like very comfortable that you are the expert on the data in this area.
Denise in DC, we will share our listing presentation and include all the graphs and charts in it.
Yep.
I don't know how, but Alex will figure it out.
You got this, Alex, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Most for sellers. Okay.
Interesting. It's insane how much variation there
everybody's
is in the
different.
MLSs is what we're seeing, which is difficult.
But you feel free to reach out to us. I don't know if you can still see our contact information, but if you have any specific questions, we are around. We are happy to help. And Alex she's got the Excel.
we always like meeting other Compass agents
Yes.
around the country. So feel free, don't hesitate to reach out.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all. And we hope to see you at a retreat or if you're in Boston, feel free to let us know.